the affordable private jet. Have a look at these. This is the bit that makes Billionaire toys so fascinating, because once you stop looking at private jets as fantasy objects for a second and start comparing them like used cars, the madness somehow gets even worse. I started with this one, a 2019 Cirrus Vision Jet G2 in Germany, advertised at $2,175,000 with 865 hours on it. It has Garmin Perspective Touch Plus, synthetic vision, Williams Tap Blue, oxygen, Sirius XM weather, winglets, an in-flight camera with entertainment. Now in private jet terms, that's being pitched almost like the sensible one. So think about that, $2.175 million, and that's the one that starts to look like the value buy. Because when you compare it with others on the market, you start to see where this little Cirrus sits. Take this 2025 G2 Plus in Daytona Beach. That one's listed at $3.65 million and has only 185 hours on it. The advert says it has everything a G3 has. That really matters to a buyer like this. Wi-Fi, safe return auto land, auto throttle, caps parachute, emergency descent mode, plus fold down TV and rear seat entertainment. That sounds a bit like a Range Rover, doesn't it? It's basically been sold as the skip the waiting list jet. So straight away you can see the spread. At the top end, the almost new one is knocking on the door of $3.5 million. At the lower end, the older ones start to feel almost reasonable. And that's where it gets dangerous, because then you get the 2023 G2 Plus in Illinois. That's advertised at $3.25 million with 581 hours. Garmin G3000, EVS, Wi-Fi, TAP, Jetstream coverage, professionally flown, not brand new, not old, not cheap, not the cheapest. It sits in that middle band where the seller is basically saying this is still a serious premium aircraft, but you don't have to go all the way to the newest one. Then at the other end of the scale, there's the 2017 Vision Jet in Arizona at $1.8 million with 940 hours. And this is where the whole market starts to resemble luxury car depreciation in the sky. That advert leans heavily on the pitch that this is your affordable entry into Vision Jet ownership. True jet performance, owner-flown simplicity, lots of upgrades, professionally managed, no damage history. It's basically the aviation equivalent of somebody saying, yes, it is 7 years old, but it's been cherished and it's still a lot of machine for the money. One lady owner. It's not one lady owner, but that's what they used to say in the old days. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the 2019 German G2 at 2.175 million is living in a very interesting part of the market. It's not the cheapest route into the Vision Jet ownership, but it's a long way off the newest money. It sits above the early 2017 aircraft, but way below the 2023 and 2025 G2 Plus examples. And that makes it in some ways the perfect millionaire's rationalisation. Not new enough to be obscene, not old enough to feel compromised, not cheap, obviously, but just close enough to sensible to make a wealthy buyer start justifying it. That's the real genius of the Cirrus Vision Jet. It's not the biggest jet, it's not the fastest jet, it's not the most expensive jet. It's the jet that makes the fantasy feel accessible. Cirrus built this thing around the idea of a personal jet, the owner-pilot dream, and the market clearly understands that. Even the adverts tell the story. The newest one says, why wait for a G3? Buy this one now. The 2023 one says, professionally flown, premium spec, middle of the market. The 2017 one says, this is your opportunity to step into Vision Jet ownership at a lower number. And the 2019 German aircraft, which is the first one I saw advertised, here's the sweet spot. Serious spec, modern G2 kit, but without the nearly new price tag. There's even a 2020 UK example now shown as sold with only 168 hours, which reminds you how lightly used some of these jets are. These aren't workhorse airliners. These are luxury time machines for people whose lives operate at a completely different level from everybody else. And that's why this market's so addictive to look at, because the numbers are insane, but the logic starts to make sense inside its own world. You begin with, how much? Then you move to curiosity. Then you start comparing the spec, the age, the hours, the support programs, and before long, you're talking about a $2.175 million private jet, as though it's the smart buy. That's how billionaire dreams work. The really expensive one makes the merely outrageous one feel normal. And that, in a single sentence, is the story of the Cirrus Vision Jet. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.